Hi. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Can you see me? I will wait a little bit because I know that there is going to be a little bit of delay in the actual stream. All right, there is a yes answer already, so I can see that everyone is starting to hear me and listen to me. This is so awesome. Yeah, we told that this is going to be in English because we are going to stream this for the Hungarian students and the Czech students as well. So I'm going to speak in English, but hopefully, if I'm not mistaken, on YouTube you can actually check the auto captions to subtitle my beautiful voice, so you can at least see what I'm talking about. But I don't know, I never tried it before, so this is the first time for me as well. So yeah, cool. This is so awesome. Everybody already checked in, everybody said hi in the comments. This is very nice. So yeah, hello everyone, my name is Adam Gyulavari and I am going to be the mentor who is going to start your journey towards web development. And on this particular session we are going to talk about the basics of HTML and CSS. So I hope that everybody is ready to jump in to this topic with me. At least I hope that everybody is going to be able to listen the very basics that we are going to talk about. So I have a little guide to go through what are going to be the topics that I'm going to talk about. So this is how it's going to be basically. I already introduced myself, but by the way, I'm a mentor at Green Fox Academy for 4 years now. So this is what I do in my work as my work time, usually surrounded with persons and people in the offline office. But now, obviously, this is a very different situation. And basically, this is I was a software developer before for almost 10 years or even more than 10 years, and now I love to tell people to introduce them to software development and programming and everything that I can offer as a teacher, as a mentor. And now, what is going to be the layout of this 4 hours? Obviously, 4 hours is a very long time, so I don't want to have this whole thing as a continuous session. It is going to be very brain freezing probably. So we are going to have little breaks in the middle of the session. So after around 1 hour, we were going to have a 10-minute break, and then again after 1 hour another 10-minute break. So basically every hour we will have around 10-minute breaks. So this whole thing is divided into 4 parts, and these 4 parts are going to be in the hours basically. And now we are going to live doesn't have subtitles. I'm sorry. I thought that it had. That's shame on me. But I will try to do everything on the screen, and you will be able to follow the basics anyways. And I will try to speak as understandable as possible. For now, yes, it is going. Okay, so whoever is interested in how the education is going to look like, we put a video here on this website, and this video is a around 20 minutes video about how the education is going to be built up, and everything is detailed there. So if you have any questions, then you should check that out, and probably you will be able to get the answer from there. I hope, at least. And if you don't, then we will still provide you a lot of other places to get answers. Yeah, I can write it simultaneously, but that's going to be very hard. So let's jump in. The first thing that we need to talk about is CodePen. So we are going to not work on the on your machine in your files. So some of you I already seen that you have installed some editors and you are using editors. That is very cool. But on the first week we are going to you can use your editors if you already know how to use them. But on the first week it is perfectly fine that we are going to use an online tool to solve the exercises and get into the basics of HTML and CSS. There are a lot of comments about is this going to be English all the way? No, it is not going to be English all the way, but all the materials. And this is kind of a material because I'm going to tell you about what are the necessary things that you will need to use. These are going to be in English, but the Discord server and the Discord groups are going to speak in Hungarian. So, or in Czech if you are from the Czech Republic, obviously. So that's going to be in a local language, and there you can communicate in Hungarian or Czech if you want to. All right, but I will try to continue with the things. I will check the comments every now and then I will try to answer if I see something that is related to. Yeah, thank you. Oh, some of you already noticing that. Okay, I will try to follow the comments and answer them if there are any questions that I can answer right now, or is it necessary to answer it right now? But let's just jump into the topics. Many of you do not speak Czech or Hungarian. What language do you speak then? That's an interesting. Great. This comment, I will switch off the comments. This is hilarious. I mean, there are a lot of funny comments. Okay, so on the first week we are going to use CodePen for those who are not familiar with any editors. But if you are already using comfortably like Visual Studio Code or Sublime or Atom, all of them are perfect editors, so you can use them for any of the exercises. But whoever don't know anything about editors, then for you it is going to be basically a website where we are going to solve the exercises, and it is called codepen.io. You can create a registration here, and you will be able to save a lot of work here. And basically here is where we're going to solve the exercises. And you can create a registration with. I will open it in a incognito window so we can see how it does look like if I'm not logged in. So you can sign up easily. And you can use your Twitter account or Facebook account to sign in, or you can sign in with an email address, and then you will see exactly the same interface that I had before. Probably you will have a little tour to show all the features that CodePen can have. Only the first 2 or 3 points of that is actually necessary. So after that you can skip it, and you don't have to continue with the tour. So this is going to be basically the thing where you arrive after registration and logging in, and this is how you can create a pen on CodePen. And this is where we are going to start coding and do our first HTML and CSS exercises. So As you can see, this screen is made up of 3 parts. The first one is HTML, the second part is CSS, this third part is JavaScript, which we won't use on the first week, so you can minimize this JavaScript editor. We are not going to need that. And here, this whole area at the bottom is going to be the result of what we are typing to the above editors. So these are 2 editors where we can edit HTML code and CSS code, and this is going to contain the result. So yeah, this is the registration, the new pan. I showed you how to do that, but I hope that you will be able to find it on your own as well. And there is also another feature, fork pan, which is useful if you find another pan by another person. So for example, this pan is, if I save it and say material review for HTML and CSS, then it is going to, I will save it. It is going to have an actual ID or name, or I don't know how to call this. But the point is that you can easily look at other people's pens, and you can edit them, modify them, and this is basically the whole point of this website, to try out things with HTML and CSS on the internet. So if you find a pen that you want to modify and save it as your own, there is a fork button here at the bottom, and with that you can make your own copy under your account. So you will have your own version, and you will be able to modify it and save it. Basically any other pens that is available on CodePen, and there is a lot of them. All right, there is a lot of comments about Potato is on sale. I will ignore that from now on, hopefully. So the next thing that we need to do is basically try out what happens if we put something in these editors. So first things first, probably the HTML is going to be the thing that we want to try out. So if we type here something, this is something, then as you can see, this text is happening, this appearing in the result window. So the Discord link was we never sent out the Discord link, so it will be sent out tomorrow. Don't worry about the Discord right now. So this is basically, you can type here anything. HTML is going to be a text-based thing, and on an HTML page it is going to be displayed as is. But if we want to structure this, and we want to add styles and put them in different places, then we will need to use HTML elements in order to structure the text into different parts. Because if I want to, for example, add a new line here, and I want to have this line on the next line, what will happen is that in the result it is going to be still in one line, because in HTML the lines and the spaces are not going to be displayed, because those are for just structural things. So you can structure the code with spaces and lines, but we will talk about this later. But the point is, in order to make it a little bit more stylish, we will need to use HTML elements and HTML tags. So how does a tag look like, and how does it any different than what we have here? So let's look at an HTML element. So the easiest HTML element is a paragraph element, because that is going to be basically on every page. Mostly it is used basically on every page. And the paragraph element is looking like this. There is this duck sign or lower than sign, how you can open an HTML tag. You can then, there comes the name of the HTML element. So in this case, the paragraph has the p name, so this is going to be a p tag, and then a closing sign for the greater than or lower than, or so the other pair of this sign. So this is basically an HTML tag, and in order to make this a normal HTML element, we will need a closing pair for this, but on this own, this can be an HTML element as well. So this basically the very basic HTML element that we can have, and the closing pair of this is going to look like exactly the same, just with a slash sign at the beginning of the name. So this is going to indicate that this is a closing pair of this opening tag. And this whole thing is basically a paragraph. Why is it useful? Because it is going to we are going to be able to put any content here. So I can write this is my first paragraph, and it looks exactly like the same, but if I copy this whole thing and put it next to after it and say this is my second paragraph, as you can see that they are already on two different lines. So this is a paragraph is going to be separated like this by default, but you can also always change that with styling if we are going to get there. And I'm lost. All right. Well, so I can go back to a little bit of I can go back to basically talking about how the education is going to be, probably, because right now I see that there is still a lot of questions and still a lot of answers about Toyash, who actually made this video that I recommended, but yeah, I have lots of comments. All right, so I will try to summarize then how we will go with this whole thing. So basically, not this one, sorry. So basically, this is going to be I should probably start it with this, but I thought that it was on the video, so I didn't have to. I didn't look at the whatever. So this is going to be the 3-week schedule, and you probably already know the topics that we are going to cover: HTML and CSS basics and advanced part, and we are going to have a little website project at the end of the first week, and then we are going to dive into Git and GitHub and the JavaScript and the DOM manipulation at the end of the second week. And after that, there is going to be a longer Yeah, we can watch later the comments. That's for sure. But the point is that a little bit of context is probably good, so everyone can calm down and feel that okay, this is going to happen sometime, and you know already what's needed to know. So this is a minimum context I can give, and we still have plenty of time to finish all the materials that we are going to cover today. So don't worry about it. So these are going to be the topics, and as you can see that there is always a material review on YouTube part, and there is always a workshop that is going to follow it. And every time when we talk about material review, this is going to happen here on YouTube. This is going to be a live stream where we talk about what is the topic and how to do things with in that topic, basically. So right now we are going to talk about the HTML and CSS basics, how to do things with those, what are those, how to solve the exercises, and then on the workshop one day later you can actually try these things out. So basically you will have a couple of exercises where you can do exactly the same as me, and you will be able to do it with your study group. So there you will be in your study groups, and you will be able to ask questions there, talk together, discuss together, and also we will give you a platform that is going to be questions and answers platform, where you will be able to ask questions from the mentors in English, in Hungarian, in Czech. Hopefully this is going to be the point. But right now what you need to do and what you need to focus on is basically what I'm going to tell you, and try to understand everything. It is recorded, so you will be able to watch it back anytime, and I will encourage you to rewatch it if you need, or if something you weren't really sure about little parts of it. So it is going to be recorded, and you can rewatch it any times, as many times as you need it, if you want to. And I am thinking thank you Toyash, for answering that many questions on the comment side. So this is going to be the basic idea of how you will learn. Right now, just listen and try to understand what I'm doing. Try to make sense of the things that I'm typing in. And next day you will have to do basically the same. Just type things in, try things out, and the exercises are going to be constructed in a way so you will be easily start out. So you don't have to remember everything at all. The whole point of this material review is to get a bigger picture, see the capabilities of you will be able to do. You don't have to remember everything, because everything is on the internet already. And this is basically one big point of learning online, because and we also encourage our students every time to if you're not sure about something, you can always look it up. And everything that I'm talking about has very many written and very detailed explanation on the internet. So we listed a couple of things here next to the exercises. So tomorrow you will be able to not just work on the exercises, but if you got stuck, there is a couple of materials that you will be able to revisit or visit anyhow that you want to get the concept. And we will have for every exercise a questions page, so you will be able to ask questions and check how these things are going to happen. So right now just try to enjoy the show and and follow everything that is happening. And I hope that you will be able to get as many things as possible from the upcoming things. And nothing will be very complicated. And after a little practice, I'm sure that you are going to be able to get the whole concept as well. I will send. You will get the syllabus tomorrow. Don't worry. This is also going to be sent out, so you don't have to write down the address from the YouTube stream or anything. We are going to send this information out. And right now we'll just go back. All right, somebody already tried out CodePen, and I'm thinking that is great. And then we can continue with these things that we are talking about. So yes, you will get the tutorials. We will send these. What I'm showing, you will get it. So don't worry. All right, so we are going to get into the HTML elements a little bit more detailed version. So this is generally the how an HTML element is going to look like. This is a p tag or a paragraph tag, as we already talked about, and this is the opening part of it, and this is the closing part of it. And basically what's in between is going to be the content of this paragraph. It can have as many characters, as many letters and sentences as you like. After this, probably the next thing that is a good thing to talk about is that there are a lot of different tags that you can use in HTML. And the first thing is that probably so let me restart my sentence. So let's see a couple of other HTML tags that probably is going to be very useful. Usually every website has a very basic title at the top of the page, let's say. So in order to create a title, you can use the header elements in HTML, and this is the same idea that probably you have in a Word document. So you can have different sized headers, and by default every text is going to be a paragraph. So if you look at this is a very similar to a basic Word document, but right now we are going to add a simple title to it. The titles tag, or the biggest header element, is going to be h1, and I'm going to close it and put the content here that this is the title. So the result is going to show that the title is actually a title. So what was the content in this h1 tag is basically what is going to be displayed as a title. And there are many not many, but actually 6 other header elements. And you can use them anyhow you like. If you like the first one, then you can use that one, but there is a second header, for example, second header title or subtitle, if you want to say it like that, and that is called the H2, and it is a little bit smaller than the H1, and you won't be surprised, but there is actually a H3 with a closing pair, and this is third header, little smaller again, and this is going to continue until H6. So you will have H4, H5, and H6. Yes, but sometimes there are good questions, and I will try to listen to that. But this is an experience for all of us, for me as well. So we are learning how this is going to work out, and if there is a better way, then we will try to make it into a better way. But right now, I think it's good that I can see the comments at least. For example, to zoom in for the code. Yes, I can zoom in into the code. I hope that this is making it a little bit better. But yeah, the whole point is that you can create as many tags on an HTML page as you want, and there are many tags that you can use. Right now we are just seeing 4, but there are lots of them. All right, there is one more thing that you can set in a tag. That you can set in a tag is that is something that is called a property. We are not going to use at the beginning too many properties, but it is good to know that you can do that. So don't worry if you see something like this. This is still a perfectly normal HTML tag, but I will try to make it even more bigger. So if you can do it in CodePen beside me, then it is perfectly fine. If you try these out, you can try them out, but it is also perfectly fine just to listen at this point. And all right. So there are a lot of tags, and I was talking about attributes. But let's so if you see something here that is going to be probably an HTML attribute of this tag, the most common is that is called class, and it looks like this. This is something that we will use later today, but right now I just wanted to say that this is also a part of an HTML tag, and here this is what's called an attribute name, and this is an equal sign, and this is the attributes value. There are many attributes that you can set on an HTML tag. So if you see anything like this, that is also a perfectly normal H1 tag, just with a little extra information that is provided into this. All attributes are going to do something, but by default we are not going to need them so far. So let's just move on to the next topic. But this is basically how an HTML element looks like, and that's all you need to know from the general perspective of how these elements are going to look like. There is usually an opening tag, there is usually a closing tag, and there is a content, and maybe there are attributes here, and that's it. Yeah, all right. The next one is nesting elements. So far we didn't do anything very complex, but actually the good thing that in order to structure our little website, because what we are doing here is a little website, is that in order to structure it, we probably need to put things into other things. What does that mean? That means that we can place HTML tags and HTML elements into other HTML elements as content. So, for example, I will use another HTML element for that, and let's call it main. This is going to be a main HTML element, and this HTML element right now here doesn't have any content, but it can have as many just like how we did before. It is not going to have any special design like the headers. It is going to look very, very plain and simple, just like the paragraph if we don't do anything about it. But let's just add some simple text here. I will save this because it says autosave is enabled, but it said me that we didn't have a save for a long time. But yeah, so here is our simple text. But the thing is that we don't have to put just simple text here as content. We can also use any kind of HTML elements as content inside of other HTML elements. So it is perfectly safe to, for example, this title, this whole line, I will move it inside of the main element. And this is perfectly normal. Why this is useful? Because right now this h1 element is part of this main element as well. And I can even add the paragraph afterwards this main element, and this is also perfectly normal. And you can even have just simple text here. I will remove the empty lines, and then we can probably see the whole picture together, but not everything, but at least at the top. So this is perfectly normal. You can put any elements basically into, not always any elements into any other elements, but this is the main idea, that if you have an opening tag and you have a closing tag, then inside of these you can perfectly have any kind of other elements as well. So this is what's called nesting elements. And you can also see that what I'm doing here right now is that the h2 is starting at the beginning, and the p tag is starting at the beginning. I will remove the empty line so we can see it. So these elements I started at the beginning, but here in the main tag I started not at the beginning of the line, but after 2 spaces. This is something to actually ensure for the programmer, for the coder, for you to make it visible that what is the content of the main HTML element. So because of this, because of these 2 spaces that I have here, it is pretty visible that the main is starting here and it is ending here, and these are the things that are inside of it. If I don't have this, the main closing part can just got lost in the many lines that you will have in the code of your HTML file. So it is a good thing to always start a little bit inner, not little bit, but actually 2 spaces inner compared to the container, because you can have many levels of these HTML tags inside of HTML tags. So for example, if I want to do it a little bit, you want to make it a little bit more complicated, we can put here a header element that is going to be a header opening tag with a header closing tag, and we can even put this this title inside of this header element. So this is also perfectly normal. You can put these and you can put any elements or nest any levels of elements into one another. That's perfectly fine. What I used here is this main element and this header element are all the same. They are called semantic elements, and they don't really have any visible effect other than actually having a name in the code. So you can say that this is going to be the main part of my HTML, and this is going to be my header part of the header part of my HTML. So these are not styled by default. They are going to they are going to just work as a container basically for your HTML elements. They are not going to do anything. There is one other element that is probably, if you ever seen an HTML code, you probably going or looked at it. That is called div, division. This is basically exactly the same. It is very commonly used, the div tag, with classes and other styling stuff. The difference between the div and the main is basically the name of them. So division can be any kind of box, but if you want to make sure that the reader of your code is understanding what is happening inside of your HTML part, then if you put everything in the main tag, then when he's looking at it, or when she's looking at it, he will understand that, or she will understand that this is the main part of my HTML. If there is just a div, and there are lots of divs, it is very hard to tell which div is more important than the other. And that's the difference between the simple div and the semantic elements that you can use to divide your content into parts. But right now I don't even recommend you to start thinking in using the divs, because there are many semantic elements that you can use for basic parts of your HTML site. But you can always use the div as well if you don't know what is going to be the perfect name for a part of your HTML. But there are a lot of semantic elements in HTML, and this is where are the semantic elements? Here are the semantic elements. So these are there are some of roughly 100 semantic elements available. They are not doing exactly anything. They are just there for actually signing the code that okay, this is going to be an article, this is going to be a footer, this is a header, or this is a navigation part, or a section, or a summary. They are not going to do anything. Just to style the code a little bit to make it more understandable. what was the shortcut used to make the brackets automatically? If you are in CodePen, you can type in a tag name, any kind of tag name. For example, let's say article, because we saw that article. And if you hit the tab key, then you will get this whole nice little thing with an opening tag and a closing tag part. So the tab key is what's needed for that. Okay, so we talked about nesting elements, and this is how you can put elements inside into one another. And the next thing that we need to talk about is block versus inline elements. This is going to be a little bit more about styling or how they are working, but they are also important in other ways. So right now, what we saw that all of these elements are going to basically be put on a new line. So as you can see that the P or paragraph element and this header element, and even the second headers and the third headers are going to create a whole new line in this situation. We can even get a more clear picture if I'm going to show you a little bit of developer console. Right now you don't have to worry about how I made this happen, but the point is that here I will show how these things are actually aligned to one another. So here is the code for the title. You can see here the title that I created. This is actually the running code. So this is the editor, and this is now the running code in developer tools. And here we can see that this is basically filling the whole line or whole area that it can fit. If I'm even trying to make it a little bit bigger, we will be able to see that it is going to stretch out to the whole length of the screen. And this is true for the paragraph as well. True for this header part and the article, the main. Basically everything is right now stretching to the end of or to the whole length of this whole thing. But that's not the case with all the that's not the case with all the HTML elements. So actually this is a way better arrangement to look at, because it can be bigger even. Nice. So yeah, the tab is only going to work if you just write in a tag name and then a tab. If there is a article and then you hit the tab, then you will just have a nice little space afterwards, and it is not going to be the closing tag typed in automatically. So if you just have the article name without anything, then you can hit the tab, and then it is going to be magically this way. But the point is that I wanted to talk about the inline elements. So here we are right now, these all are block or whole wide elements, whole length elements. This is how these are called block elements. So when we are saying block elements, these are the block elements. Below the zero, the tab is below the zero usually. That is the button for this thing. So these are block elements, and the non-blocking elements are so-called inline elements, and what the name suggests is that they can be put into lines, basically. So they are not going to break the line of that is already existing. They are not going to be separating this whole thing into multiple lines, and they are not going to stretch whole wide length of the screen. They are just going to be in part or smooth into the part of the text. So there are a couple of elements like that. For example, the easiest thing is to check out the strong tag, because let's say that we want to make this my second part a little bit emphasized or a little bit more outstanding. Then we can use the strong tag inside of this p tag, and if I close it, you will be able to see that this my second part is is bold in this viewer, or in this editor. I mean, in this viewer. And these are the tags that are called inline. And if we check how it looks like in the concept of boxes, what we will see is that this paragraph tag is still the whole wide length, so it is still stretching through the whole area. But if we look at the strong tag, it is only that little box that actually contains the text of this. All right. I'm talking since 1 hour almost, so I think we are almost at the end of this block. I was a little bit slower, but we also had a little bit of extra things that I wanted to talk at the end, like a little bit of the how this whole thing will work. Probably I was a little bit messy with the structure in this sense, but let's have a 10-minute break, or actually, yeah, let's have a 12-minute break. So I will continue at 16:05. How about that? So 11-min countdown. This is going to be the break. Have a Kit Kat. Hi. Welcome back. I hope that everybody is back from the coffee or little break that involves some little cigarettes or something like that. So, I hope that everybody had a little fresh air, and now everybody is going to be able to jump in back back to coding or back to the basics of coding. So I'm waiting a little bit more that we are I mean on from the window or something. Yeah, the fresh air is not going to be necessarily allowed to go outside, but at least let in a little bit of fresh air. So all right, let's get back to business. And this is where we were, and we talked about a little bit of elements, basic elements, semantic elements that are not going to do anything, but just containing things like the main or article or header. Some elements that are actually going to do something, like highlight this text as a title, and some other elements that are inline elements that can be put into not breaking and not making up the whole thing. So these are the things that we all already talked about, and there are a couple of elements that are called empty elements, and those are the things that don't need a closing pair. And the easiest and most common example for this is probably the line break. Some of you already posted it in comments, so I will show that. For example, here in this let's say paragraph, if we want to add another line, for example, to here, and obviously we can put it into two different p tags if we want to make them appear on another line, but if we hit an enter and just make them into different lines, they are not going to be on different lines, as we already saw that before, because these line breaks and spaces in the HTML source code are good for styling the code and making it a little bit more readable, so it's not just in one line. Right now it's very hard to properly style it because of the huge font size, but at least you can see at the beginning that it is a little bit organized right now. If you see that every opening tag is going to after every opening tag, the content is going to start a little bit inner, and this is true for all of the things. And this is why basically spaces are not going to be displayed in the actual HTML page. But if we want to, you can just add a break HTML tag that is an empty tag that's not going to need a closing pair. You can just use it on its own without closing anything, and without actually having a content of it. It doesn't do anything like that. It works just on its own like this. So these are called empty tags. There are a couple of others that you will see later, but right now you can just get it later or take it later. That these are things, and these are also okay. But most of the tags are going to need a closing pair that are actually having content. All right. we talked about empty elements, and we talked about a little bit of div and h1 and h6 and the p's. So these are hopefully things that we already covered. And the div is again just as the article. It is not going to do anything special with the text. It is a division. It is for structuring the content. So we can perfectly put this into div or a div tag, and it is going to have exactly the same result. And this into a div tag, and this is going to have exactly the same result. The reason why I didn't choose this and use this is because it makes it more understandable that we know the purpose of this part of the HTML. Then we can already do that. So if we know that this is going to be an article, then we can use the article semantic tag, which is basically kind of like just a container element to put things into, just like the div. So the div is basically a container element to put things into, and the main is also something like this, and the header as well. So this is how I will leave the things right now. The span is also an inline element, like the strong element here. It is an inline element that you will be able to use for certain specific stylings. It is not going to do anything on its own. So if I put a span here with a slash span, this first word is not having anything special or different. I will close this developer tools now. We don't need it anymore. So it will not be any different than the other things, but this is perfectly fine. But we can use it, and later we will be able to style it if we want to, because we want to make it a little bit more special or something. So this is also just something with what you can underline or highlight something in the text without breaking it. That's breaking it into multiple lines. That's the reason for span. And the last three things that are here are the lists, and basically these are going to be with what you can create exactly these kind of list items or lists on a web page. So this is this is what we're going to try out. There is a question on what I can see right now, that difference between strong tag and B tag. There is no difference that in between them. The B tag is also making something bold, but the strong is much more descriptive, and it says a lot more. So it is usually recommended to use that instead of the B tag, which is wasn't named properly when this semantic thinking came into the HTML perspective. So strong tag and B tag basically the same. You should use the strong tag because that's probably what's going to be in most of the cases, or most of the documentations will recommend that, to use that instead of the B tag. So lists. I will open this article, and we will put a list here. There are two types of lists that you can create. Probably you already know that from Microsoft Word, at least I hope so. There is an ordered list that is displaying the list items with numbers or with letters or something that is actually having an order. And there is the unordered list that is having these bullet points next to the list items. So the unordered list is going to be the UL tag unordered list, and in order to create list items, you will need to use the list item tags, and they are called I list item. So this is the first point, and then we can create a lot of other list items, second point, third point, and so on and so forth. So this is a very basic not ordered list, and the ordered list works exactly the same, just not using the UL tag, but actually it is going to be an ordered list, so using the OL. So these are going to be exactly the same, just right now we have this numbers next to the actual elements and bullet points. And the good thing is that with CSS we will be able to style all of these things. So we can style the numbers, we can style the bullet points, we can style how big this title should be and what the color should be and everything. But the basic of the structure is going to always look like this: black and white text on black text on a white background, and a couple of minimal listic design elements to highlight some of the title, and these are going to be the very basics of an HTML page. And we talked about semantic elements and white spaces, and basically this is the first part. I think I've covered most of the things that is here, but don't worry if you don't feel that something is still not okay. Then whenever you will try out the exercises tomorrow, you will be able to experiment with these things, and you can get it on your own. But there will be a lot of help next to the exercises as well, so don't worry about that. Okay, let's move on. So the second part, where we are right now, is basically the forms, which is again HTML, special HTML elements. We saw a couple of HTML elements already. So these are semantic tags that we saw the list of it. These are the list items, and a lot of text there are. But you don't have to always remember them. But basically, let's create a list of what are the most important tags here, and then we can create an HTML page for that. So I will copy this header and put it here. So important tags to remember. And I think the first is the H1 and H6. It's pretty easy to remember. Maybe even with the paragraph tag, because these are pretty commonly used even in many document editors. You can come across with them. And then what is also going to be a good thing to remember is that there are a couple of semantic elements with what you can organize the structure of your page. So something like this: main, header, footer, and maybe article or section. These are probably something that are very commonly used, or you can use them anyhow you want. And there are a couple of elements that are useful for inline styling, and strong, that we already see that, span, and there is the M or emphasize tag that you can use to, you can try that out, to make the word or make the sentence italic. And again, this is something that you can use inline. And basically these are the most important parts. And now I'm going to add one more category here that is going to be the form and the connecting elements, HTML elements to the form, which is going to be input and button, and that's it. No, sorry, one more. Label. These are the all the HTML elements that you will probably use one by one tomorrow. And how do they look like, or how we can use them? I will put again at the top so everybody can see from the top. Usually you should go from the top to the bottom and not from the bottom to the top, but that's okay. So we will create a form tag or a form element. It already suggests, if you do this auto extending thing in CodePen, it automatically suggests that you should have an attribute for this HTML element, but we don't need this right now. We just want to create a form. We won't actually use it, as it will be usable later, but so far we won't need that, so we can remove that part, and we will just have a simple form. And the main things that we are going to need is basically the input is the most important part. So if we create an input tag, this is going to be an empty element, which means that it is not going to need it is not going to need a closing tag, so we are not going to have an input here, but just it is going to stand on its own like this. And as you can see, there is an attribute that we actually need to have with this HTML tag. So basically the attribute again is this is going to be the name of the attribute. So what are we actually specifying? And then with an equal sign we can give an actual value to this between the quotation marks if we're talking about a text or a character value. But if you want to have a number value, you can leave that out, or even leave that out without this in the string values as well, but that's not usually how it's supposed to look like. So you should put this into quotation marks. I mean the value of the attribute. So what is this going to specify? It is going to specify that this is going to be an input. So here you can see that there is an input. What's an input? Thing where you can type. So the user can type in his or her username, for example. So here you can say Adam Julavari, and then have a password field and login or something like that. So this is what an input is for. And the form is basically that is going to hold together all the inputs that are connected. So for example, form can hold in together, a login form can hold in the username and the password and the button for this login action. So these are what's going to be in the form. Right now you can see that there is no specification, or we don't know what to type here, so the user won't be able to tell as well what to type here. We can use very simple things like p tag, for example, if we want to, or just type here username. But we can even put it in a tag. And as if you remember, this simple text is not going to be a block element. So the input element is going to be next to the username, and that's perfectly fine. This is what we were looking for. But there is also another thing, a specific HTML element with what you can actually specifically designed for input elements to specify what is going to be in the input, and that is called the label. So the inputs are going to go with labels, and so if I say that this is going to be a label, I can put it like this. Then nothing is changed, but if we specify a couple more attributes, then we can actually connect these together, and it is very useful to do, because it is going to help not just the users but other things as well that are going to try to read your code. For example, robots that are going to and that's okay. Someone unplugged the router. Restarted. Restarted. Are you back on track? Yeah, I reset. Okay, back online. I'm here. Okay, great. So all right, everybody's back in business. Let's hope that yeah, well, okay. So I'm here. Yeah, I'm going to talk about this whole thing. So this is how we were so far, and basically the special HTML element for doing or specifying what is going to what you will need to put into the form is what you can do, or what you can have the label for. So this is why I'm going to put this username text into a label tag like this. Okay, because button is never I've never used a button so far. So we just use the label and then input so far. Okay. So, label. If you need to, no. So why is the label useful is because we can actually connect the two things together. So the label and the input can be connected together, and that's useful for many things. For example, robots that are going to search through your site or search through your web page, and there are going to be some people that are having disabilities. Then it is the computer can understand that, and a lot of other things that it's useful for the label to be connected with the input. But the point is, but the most important or most obvious reason is to do that is because you are going to be able to click on the username label, and then you will get prompted to type in your username. So here, if you click in the input field, then you will be able to type. But if this is set up properly, then if you click on the username, you will be able to type in. So in order to do that, we will need to specify you will need to specify a couple more attributes. And the first attribute you need to do or need to create is on the input. So we somehow need to specify what is this input or how you can identify it. And this is an ID property is for. The ID is something that needs to be a special identifier on an HTML page. So if you have an ID and another thing is having an ID, two of them can't have the same. So if this is, for example, having one as an ID, then no other element can have a one as an ID. So usually we can say that this is going to be a username as the ID for this input field, or username field to make it, or username input if you want to very, very specific. It can be any long, but the point is that no two elements can have the same. And now that this input has an ID, we can the label can refer to that ID. So we can say that this is a label for actually the username input field. And now in theory, if I click here, I will be prompted into the input field automatically. So if I click on the username, I will get the prompt or get the cursor into the text field to type in something, and now I can actually type without clicking into that clicking or anything. Okay, so this is the basic input and label combination. You don't have to. The IDs are case sensitive. Yes, actually, that's a good question. But you don't have to know all the types of the inputs. There are different type of inputs that you can use, but there are a couple that probably are going to come in handy. But again, this is something that is on the internet, and if you need something, it is perfectly fine to look for it. So HTML form input types is going to be something that I usually recommend the Mozilla developer.mozilla.org documentation, and we usually recommend that. But basically, a lot of other a lot of other resources are perfectly fine. But here you can see what types of inputs you can use, and there are a lot of them. So these are all the inputs that you can use: button, checkbox, color, date, email, file. So a lot of inputs that you can use. And but the most important part is probably the counterpart of the username, which is going to be password. So I will copy this two things, and I will say that this is a password, and this is a password, and this is a password ID. This is very nice right now, by the way, but we will make it a little bit nicer. And the type is going to be password as well. It doesn't matter that the ID and the type is the same. It just the point is to have a special thing to identify it in the for the label. So these are the things. This and this needs to match, and the ID shouldn't repeat in the whole document. So it should be unique. Every anything that has an ID should have a different ID. Okay. So I will try to go and see what this is look like. So here in the username, you can obviously type username and or anything. Actually, it doesn't have to be a username. We just specify that it is going to take a text inside, so we can type in any text. But the password is now specified that it is a password typed input. So if I type here, what we will see is that you are not able to see what I'm typing because it is a password field. So this is how you can hide the characters as the password field should work. All right. So these are the most commonly used input types usually. There is another one that is actually useful, and we can try that out as well. That is, I will have a little breaks here so we can see things on the front end. So here are the three things that we created, and that is called the email type. That is probably the because you have to use type input password input type, otherwise you will be able to see your password. And yes, that's also true that you cannot copy from the password field the text. But okay, so the third thing is that I wanted to mention is the email. So this is what we are going to do: an email field or an email input field, and this is email, and everything is going to be email, just like that, just like as the password. And what happens here is that now I can put, not here, but here I can put any kind of text. So for example, my username can be anything, and the email is going to be something that you should provide in an email format. So if I'm going to type here something something that is not resembling an email at all, then this is going to be checked by the browser when we are trying to submit the form. But we are not trying to do that right now because we don't have anything, because we don't have any button for that. But after we created a button, we can actually check if this email thing is working right now. So the button is the last thing that you will need to use in the form, and it is looking like this. It's a very simple element, and we can put like a login or something inside it. So this is how it's going to look like. It's perfectly normal if you have the form elements a little bit styled differently on Windows. I'm using a Mac machine, and it is going to be probably look a little bit differently, but that's perfectly fine. We are just using different default styles right now. So all right. If you still can see that you are what you're typing in the password field, make sure that you are typing in a password field and not in a username field or something like that. Nothing is going to happen if I press login. Wow, bad path. Okay. All right. So okay. What happened? Okay. So yeah. So the button is not something that you should click right now. If you click it, then it will go. You will have to run it probably manually. You will have a button on CodePen for that, so don't worry about it. But that's perfectly fine. It can happen with anyone. So that's how the internet is working. But the point is that here we can now try out this email thingy. So if I type here something with a password, I will get this notification from the browser actually that because it knows that it is an email field or an email typed input, you need to provide an input that is actually a normal email thing. So it won't really let us click the login button and go to the buggy page until I type something in. Yes, there is another way of creating buttons, and that is perfectly fine. You can do input type button with a value of login, and this is going to be exactly the same as the other button. They can do all the same things, but generally I think it is just this is a better way to specify the things. This is not an input. This is actually a button that is going to end this whole form and send it somewhere. So this is why I would recommend using the button instead. But both of them are actually the same, so they can work both ways. Okay. And I already showed you the Mozilla Developer Network's web documentation. So this blue page on developer.mozilla.org. This is basically you can learn, you can find tutorials and all the elements and all the attributes are here. If you're not sure how to do something, then there is going to be an example on this website, but you can just search for it on the internet if you want to. If you remember you can do something, you can search it and you will find it probably. So the important part is to remember that there are capabilities and specifically how to do that. That's not that important because you can always look that up. Input submit is again going to be something that is going to be the same. Yes, equals sign. Here there is equals sign and not a column. So this is not like this. It is like this. Okay. So let's move on to the next topic, and now we are going to start to style a little bit, which is awesome. Whoops, not this one, but this one. So let's start to style the basics right now, because I have this whole very big environment. I will click on this CSS tab, but you should see the two tabs already on your machine. But right now I'm going to type a little bit of CSS here. So let's try to add some very basic styles and get familiar with how this CSS is going to work. It is a totally different structure how we will write the CSS code. So the HTML and the CSS are totally two different things. HTML is for structuring the content and providing the content, and the CSS is going to set how the content should look like. So the CSS is going to say that okay, the titles should be red, or the CSS is going to say that the bullet points should be underlined, or anything like this. We will set up a lot of rules. And because of this, we first need to identify the thing that we are setting a rule for. So and that is the easy part. So this is how we will start. For example, we can say that we want to style the header elements. So for example, the H1. Then you will type the name of the tag or name of the element. And after a space, but this is optional, but this is how it looks nice to have a little space here. And after a space, and this curly braces is going to be needed. It is on weird places on Windows, but with the Alt GR plus H and J, I think, something around that, but I don't see it. Probably you will be able to see on your machine. You can type these characters, and this is going to be basically the structure of this whole ruling or styling. for this element. Yeah, that one. Cool. So in between the curly braces, we can specify what style rules we are going to use for the H1, and it is going to follow a very simple pattern. That is going to be a property name, and a value. So this is going to be generally the idea of how to create CSS rules, and then at the end of the rule there is going to be a semicolon. So these are going to be the general way of how the CSS rules are going to be. But what are these property names, and what we can change? For example, we can change the background. So I will say that the background should be something, and here we can say any kind of color that in English. So if you want to have a red background, then you can have a red background, and as you can see, the H1s now are actually red, which is great. And this is how generally the CSS styles are going to work. This is a CSS rule set, or a CSS rule, and you can have as many specifications or rules in this rule set as you like. So you can specify other things. For example, you want to specify that with the H1s, the color of the text should be, for example, white instead of red, and then you will be able to change this as well. There are a lot of properties that you can change and use. Again, you don't have to know them from the head. You just have to think of what you want to do, and then try to look for it. Obviously, after a lot of practice, you will have a lot of properties in your head that you can use. But if you're not sure, you can always look them up anywhere. And in the exercises, there are going to be a lot of help to change what, and try to do that with this. And yes, obviously, the colors can be used differently. So not just the names of the colors can be used, because the computer can display more than 2 million colors, and not all of them are named. So if you want to specify a very specific color that doesn't have a name, then you can use the hash mark sign and get 6 numbers. That is going to be a color. This is actually a hexadecimal number, so you can even use characters in it. For example, A and F. Because those are also part of this. But yeah, the easiest thing to try out is just the color names, like for example purple instead of that purple. Almost figured it out. Okay. And that one also. Okay. So this was the anatomy of the CSS rule set. So this is the CSS rule set, and this is what's called the selector. So we want to select something, and we want to apply a couple rules for this something that we selected. We can select HTML tags or elements directly, but there are other things that we can select. For example, we will select probably classes at the end of the day, but let's not skip ahead that much. We can already talk about that. So I already showed you that there is going to be this need for classes probably when I told you about the anatomy of the HTML element. So right now we saw a lot of properties, so we are not going to be afraid of little more properties. So the class property is going to be a helpful thing to remember that we should have a break, because it is really almost an hour. So all right, let's have a break, and I will continue in 11 minutes because that worked in the previous version as well. So, but thanks for the notification. Or remembering. So, see you in 10 minutes. Have a break. Hello, welcome back. I hope you had a nice little nap or something in this 10 minutes of little break. I hope that you can hear me again and you can see me again. But as I can see that there are already coming the comments about the napping, that it is probably going to be all right. So let's continue. We actually managed to almost finish the second part, so I was almost right about this amount of things, but we stopped before actually trying to access or use classes as selectors, because we talked about the CSS a little bit, how the CSS is constructed with the selector part at the beginning, and then with the rule set and with multiple rules if you want to provide multiple rules. And I said that you can have the selector to select by a tag name, but you can also select by class names and actually many other things. But the first thing that we are going to try is going to be the class name and how to do that. So why is this important? Because sometimes, for example, here there are a lot of list item tags. And if you want to style them differently, you can't select the list item tag, because then all of them is going to look exactly the same. But if you want to, for example, have this as a red color, this is blue color, this is green color, and this is yellow color, then you won't be able to do that unless you somehow make them a little bit different. So this is what we are going to do with using classes. And the class is going to be an attribute for the HTML tag. So as you can remember, the attributes are something in the opening tag that looks like this: attribute name equals attribute value between the quotation marks. So this is how we are going to set up classes for these list item tags here. So I will put a space and say class equals something here. Usually we want to set the class names to be somewhat descriptive about what they are going to do. So if you know that you want to create a class to make the color red, for example, you can name the class red. These doesn't have to be unique like the IDs, so the classes can be reused anywhere. If I want to, I can have a class equals red here as well, but I can have a different one, for example blue, and here we can have a class green, and here let's have a class. Actually, let's use it again so we can see that it is reusable. And right now we created classes. So we have a red class, a blue class, a green class, and the red was already created. So this is how we created classes. You just have to put it into the HTML. And now we can select by these class names in CSS to style anything that is related to, or anything that is having that class name. In order to select the class name, the only difference is going to be that you are not just simply typing the name of the class name, because this is going to be still a tag selection. So, but there are no red HTML tags, so we are not going to select anything. But we need to start the selection with a dot. So if we are typing a dot here, then the color is going to be changed a little bit, indicating that this is not a text selection like this, but it is going to be something different. And now we can have exactly the same rule set, or totally different rule set depending on what we would like to do. So let's say that the color of the red classes should be actually red. And let's see what happens. As you can see that this line and this line turns red. So we are actually selecting and coloring those two lines. And we can do the same thing with the green, color green, and blue, color blue. And then we will have very nice colored list items. All right, so this is how you can select classes, and you can also combine things like you can say that you don't want to apply this rule only for the H1 tags. You can list as many things as you want. So after a comma, you can actually have another selector. So here you can say H2, and then this rule is going to be applied for H1s and H2s. So see, this is an H2. If you remember, actually I said that this is a second header title or subtitle. So it is having me this hint that this is going to be a header 2, but it is already purple as well. So you can have as many selectors for one rule set if you want. It's just easy because you don't have to duplicate this part for H1, for H2 if you want to look them the same. But you want to have a little bit specific things. You can even say that the H1 is going to have a third rule. For example, let's say the font size of it should be, I don't know, let's say 20 pixels. And then it is going to change the font size of the headers, but only for the header ones. While these two rules are going to apply for header ones and header twos, we can extend the rule sets for the header ones with any other things. And this is going to work exactly the same with classes. You can select classes as well with this comma and anything like that. So this is just a list of selectors, which can be anything. And I will go back to the original version. So I don't know why it doesn't really matter if we have both of them, purple and white, but yeah. Okay, so different types of selectors. We selected by element names or tag names, and we selected by classes. That's perfectly good enough to start with. There are other type of selectors, and you can even combine, complicate them very much. But let's dive into that a little bit more in the next on the next material review, because we have to draw a line somewhere where how deep we're going to get into these things. All right. So the the third part is going to be about what type of core properties you can change in CSS, and what are going to be good values for them. And for those, these are basically the things that most probably going to be useful. So let's we already see or already saw an example for the background and for the color, but let's try out the rest of these. The first one is something that is called padding, and if we check how right now this header element looks like, we will obviously see what the padding is going to do if I apply it for the header elements. Let's say that it is going to have 20 pixel padding. So this is what a padding is. Basically, it's a distance between the content and the end of the box. So if you say that you want to have some kind of a padding, then the sides of the boxes are going to have 20 pixels every direction from the content, and this is what a padding will do most probably. Yes, I added them here just to be sure that you can follow the HTML part as well. So the padding is going to be this between the ending of the box and the content. The next one is the border. The border is going to be very, very similar. That is going to be something around the box. Obviously, a border is going to be around the box, but it is going to be actually at the end of the box. So after the padding, or outside of the padding, if you like it. So let's have a border. Oh, sorry. Before moving on. So the padding is a number value. This distance is some kind of numeric thing, and in every numeric thing in CSS, you should have a unit for that with that value. So right now I'm using pixels, but you can use many more things. There are other units that you can use. For example, percentage. This is going to be huge because 20% is huge, but there are other measurement units that you can use. If you are not sure what to do, then there are lots of, again, materials, but so far pixels are the easiest one to use probably, and percentage, that is going to be perfectly enough. But with what I was going to say, that is important, that this number is not going to work without an actual value unit. So as you can see, if I remove the pixel from here, then we don't have any padding at all. So we need to have some kind of unit to actually make it work. And and now let's get back to the border. So the border is the thing that is going to be around the padding, and it is basically a border, as the name suggests. There are three things that you can set with the border: how big it should be, how should it be displayed, like what is the type of the border, and what is the color of the border, basically. So these are the three things. So you can say that I want to have a 5 pixel solid or dotted black border, for example, and then we will have this very nice black dotted border around the box. But usually the solid border is the best, because that is looking way cleaner than all of these styles. But sometimes you want to have different type of borders if you feel something that is looking nice to your eye, then you can use any of them. But this is how generally a border can be used. So a number for the border size, what type of border, and the color of the border. And the margin is the third thing that is surrounding the content in this order. So the first is the padding, the next one is the border, and then comes the margin. And the reason why I'm talking about this in this order, because this is something that is called the box model, and it is very, very important to understand how you can arrange things in HTML, because this is how it is going to work with every box in HTML. And basically everything is a box. You could see that basically this form is a box, the label is a box, the input is a box. Everything is basically going to be in little boxes. And obviously the easiest part where we can understand that is with the developer tools. So if you want to check out how your HTML actually looks like, you can use the right click and inspect element, or the Hungarian or Czech version of that command. And then you will be able to check out how the actual boxes are looking like for your application or for your code. And this is why we used the three things in this order. I will go back to the CSS part. So right now, what I highlighted is the h1 tag or h1 element, and you can see that it is highlighting actually with different colors the different parts of this box. The inner part is highlighted with blue. It doesn't really, you can't really see it because I have these weird colors, which I will change for now. So as you can see, it is highlighting the different parts with different colors. So the content is going to be highlighted with blue, and that is the most inner part of the box model. That is how big is the content, and then comes the padding, which is going to be the green highlighted part, and that is still kind of part of the content or part of the box. This is why it gets the background. But it is basically the distance between the border and the content. And then comes the border, which is something, just a stylish element to put around your box. And then comes the margin with this yellowish or orangish color, which is basically going to be the distance from other elements in the HTML structure. So how far should this h1 tag should be from the previous form elements, or how far it should be from the next UL element. Yes, that's a good question. So how big is this thing going to be? There is a, I will close this part. If you scroll to if you scroll to the bottom of the styles tab on the developer tools, you will see this actual box model in a simplified format. And here you can see that the actual content of this thing is going to be almost 195 pixels times 55 pixels, and after that comes the padding that is going to be 20 pixels. As we specified it, it is going to be 20 pixels, and additionally, on top of that comes the 5 pixel border. So these are already 25 on top of the content, as if you see each side. So altogether, basically, the content is going to be 35 pixels from any other thing in this HTML document if you count all these things together. So this is, I hope, answer the question, because it is a good question regarding this topic. So if you want to separate things from one another, for example, other elements or the container element or next elements, then you can use the margin. And if you want to have a bigger space for your content between the border or inside of the border, then you can use the padding. And the border is something that is going to surround this nice little box. It looks like a little cigarette something label right now. So let's change this back to purple. A little more color is more funnier, or even, I don't know, pink. Wow, super nice. Totally different. Okay. So this is how the box model is, but this is what the box model is actually. Basically, that's. Oh, you didn't see that because, yeah, okay, but I will try. So this is what I was talking about, and I hope that you are able to see it now better than previously. But the point is that, yeah, so these numbers are adding up together, and they are not overlapping. These are three separate things, and yeah. All right. And let's move on to the next topic. Height. So obviously sometimes you want to specify exactly how big your box should be. So generally the boxes are going to be as big as the content needs them to be. So for example, as you can see, this box is as big as the tag needs it to be, or the content needs it to be. So it doesn't fit in one line anymore, so it breaks into two lines, and because of that the whole thing is going to be bigger. But sometimes you want to actually specify how tall, how wide something can be, and for that you can use the width and the height properties. Pretty much self-explaining. After using the margin and the padding, it is going to be very, very similar. So you can set, for example, the width of this to 100 pixels, then it is going to be very, very small, and you can set the height of this, which is going to be a little bit bigger compared to what it was before. So these are things that are there for you if you need them. Sometimes you need them, but generally it's good to have the possibility for the content to size the box sizes. Yes. All right. We looked at the background already because we checked that, and we checked at the color many places. So that is something that we already see. And let's see what I already showed you one time, the font size, but we can check it again. So for example, we can say that the red colored things can be a little bit bigger. So basically, how you can specify the font or any kind of font styling inside of a box is going to start with font, and there are actually many things that you can try out using the font. This is for example for setting the font size, and this is for setting the actual font, which type font should be used. And there are a lot of other things that you can set. Even scroll just can see that. You can check the default font sizes in, for example, the developer tools. If you don't style anything, you can look at the somewhere you can find the font style, maybe, but not here. Okay, I don't know why. I'll show font size 16 pixel is going to be the default for this thing. So if we want to increase that, we can say that we want to have 14 pixels, and hopefully it will be a little bit bigger. So yeah, and this one was Control and Space, I think on Windows and on Mac as well. So if you want to look at what are the possibilities for any, it's just very many. So these are a lot of them. But if you know the beginning of this, then you can just select a few of them, and it might be more helpful. Okay, but the point is that you can set the size of the font with that, and if you know that you can change the fonts somehow, and you have an idea that okay, maybe I would like to have a shadow for this. Can I have a shadow? Then you can just try to look for CSS font shadow, and maybe you will get something on W3 Schools or even on developermozilla.org, and you will be able to check what is there. And as you can see, that this is probably what you were looking for if you wanted to imagine the shadow. But you can see that there are other examples, and you can try them out, and then you can copy them out and try them even in CodePen. So that's perfectly fine. You can add this very beautiful text shadow to the repertoire of our beautiful page so far. All right. So fonts. I wanted to talk. So I think the most important thing to make this page a little bit more modern is to replace the font, because this Times New Roman is just so 90s or anything like that. So the thing is that this is why it looks very bad. If you change the font, it will be immediately totally different, and will look way better. So let's try to change the font. The thing is that you can use any kind of fonts, and that are on your machine, but usually websites are going to be created for the internet. So you will want to make it accessible for other people as well. And if you are using a font that is on your machine, that is not going to be really good, because if it's not on a different machine, then they are not going to be able to use that font. So everything is just going to fall back to good old Times New Roman, and this looks like this. So you don't really want to do that. So what usually we do in these kind of situations, that you can use a font from the internet that is on the internet already. It's just a little bit more. There is a little more step that you need to do. But actually, I said that actually you have to use the font family to change the font type. So we can already do that. And you can say that you want to set the font family to, for example, the article, just like font family, just like we selected before, or for the red part, or select many other things. But you can actually say that that you want to change the whole thing, this whole thing's font family. And we never seen something like this before, but actually this whole HTML document is it is a little bit hidden because of CodePen, and it is good. It is a good thing because you don't have to worry about that part right now. We will cover that later. But the point is that everything is going to be in an HTML tag. So basically, if you select that tag that will contain all of this content, then you can set the font family for everything in one rule. And if you check how an HTML document is going to look like, you will be able to pretty easily identify that everything is going to be in the body tag. Every content is going to be in the body tag. So I will say that the body should have a font family. But we will cover that later, how you will be able to check that and see that. Right now it's not really important. What's important is that with the body tag you can set the font family for everything. And now what we have is, I think, is a serif type of font. And if we want to change that, we can use these categories kind of thing, which are going to use some kind of font that is available on your machine in this category. So you can actually specify what type of font you would like to use. For example, cursive is going to be changed to this beautiful thing. In every machine it can be a different font, or sans serif that is going to be without these caps. It is a typography thing if you know that. And yeah, we can use Comic Sans as well. I don't think that I have that on my machine, so it wouldn't be visible. It is a typical Windows font. But yeah, but actually there are a lot of other fonts available on the internet, and it is very easy to put them into your CodePen and make it very, very beautiful. So I will look for font on Google, fonts.google.com. This is a free website with lots of free fonts, and there are a lot of beautiful fonts, and you can just pick any of them. The Roboto is probably familiar for all the Android users. This is the default font on Android, but this is also a very nice font, and there are a lot of them. So I will going to pick this one because this is looking very nice. So I'm going to select this one, and here that now family is selected, I can actually use code that I have to import into my CodePen project. So, or CodePen. This part looks very HTML-ish. So if you look at it, it starts with a duck face sign, or greater than or lower than sign, and then there is a tag name, then there is an attribute. So this is an HTML tag. We need to put it into HTML part, and then here is the specified CSS. So this is how we can use it from the CSS. The trick is that this is not going to be in the body. So I will copy this, and we are not going to put it into the body, which is basically this, what we can edit here. But we actually have to put it into the head part of this, which is going to be under this little settings icon next to your HTML editor. So if you go to the HTML editor, it's settings. On the HTML tag, you will see these things, these three things basically. HTML preprocessor, add classes to HTML, and stuff for head. And here actually it says that you can have a link here. So this is where you can put the link or any other things that you want to put here. If you know more later, you will be able to put them here. So I will close this, and now in theory we can use the font family from this line instead of the sans serif. I am going to use this, and it is way more better. It just is just super. Especially the pink border and the purple. I'm very good at designing things, I know, but the point of this is not to design something, but to actually provide you a context of what you can do with what, and what you can use. What are the possibilities? So there are a lot of possibilities, obviously. So this is basically the font part, and I edited, of course, Wingdings and Comic Sans is still a good choice other than this, but yeah. So yeah, that was the third part, and I think I talked about everything: the box model, the core properties, margin, weight and height, and adding font to CodePen, Google Fonts. Yeah, pretty much that's it. All right, Actually, the fourth part is not going to be probably 1 hour, and we still haven't run out from the third hour. So maybe we can even finish before the 1 hour, or if there is hundreds of comments of oh my god, what do I do now, and then I will try to figure something out. But otherwise, actually, I will show you how an exercise will look like, and how you will be able to find help for the exercises, and basically this is it. Tomorrow you will be receiving the Discord invitation from an email that is coming from us, probably an email that is coming from us. You will receive the invitation for the thing that is going to be right, HTML comments, okay, that is going to be the platform for answering and asking questions, and this site where this is available, and where this all things that the exercises are and everything. So you're going to get all of this, and I will even put this CodePen link into the exercise or this material review topics part, so you can look at it if you want to, you can check it, you can fork it if you want to edit it, and that's it. Okay, so you will. This is what you can expect tomorrow. But we will also put this whole thing to this site here, so you will be able to find it at stayathome.greenfox.academy. But this is going to be available here as well, and yeah. So this is what you can expect tomorrow. And now I forgot to talk about comments, which is going to be pretty useful for anybody that wants to put some little side note or information into the code, that I want to remember that, okay, this is how to change the, I don't know, the padding is the thing that is part of the box, or the margin is going to be invisible, or the background color is not going to be seen on that. Then you can use comments for that. So for example, in CSS, the comments are not going to be understood as rules. They are going to be just texts inside of the code that is basically side notes or notes of your thinking or of your thoughts. They can be used for many things, but for this perspective, it's a pretty good way to use them for remembering things, that okay, this is doing that. So usually in CSS, a comment is going to be between these signs. So this is how you can have any kind of comments, and this is basically where you can say that, okay, the padding is that gets the background color, and then you can say that the margin is not having the background color, and anything like that. Okay, so this is basically the comments on the CSS part, and in the HTML part, it is a little bit different, but it is also the similar idea. It has a starting sign and it has an ending sign. So if you want to have a comment, for example here before the article, then you can use this sign, and you can already see that the whole thing is gray, meaning that right now CodePen is understanding that we started a comment, and it is not going to be understood as HTML. It is going to be a comment which is not displayed at all, not in the HTML and not in the CSS. So if we leave this like this, then all the things that we did here is going to be part of the comment, and it is not going to be displayed. But we can end the comment with this sign, and then we can have basically any kind of text here in between on multiple lines. So you can have a longer description for the next part, and that is going to be perfectly fine. You can even have HTML code there that is not going to be displayed. It is going to be part of the comment. So this is a comment with HTML code inside. All right. Okay. I see that there is a question. How is it possible that my text is out of the box? There are many ways how you can do that, to put something outside of the box, but the easiest thing to do is that you some kind of you don't have enough size to have everything in the correct place. So if you have for example, where is this title? Here. If you have a very long thing that is going to be too long to actually. Or I mean, not too long, but too long to fit into the current view, but you don't have any spaces to actually hit where you can actually split the text, because if the text doesn't contain any spaces, then you can't really split it into two lines, obviously, because of grammar reasons. Then it is going to be displayed in one line, and this is an easy way to do this type of thing. I hope that. Oops, I didn't want it to go back there. So this is how you can get outside of the box if you don't have enough space. Yeah, if you put spaces, it will solve it, because you will be able to the browser can actually put it into two lines, and then it will fit into the whole thing. If you have a British accent of English, then I'm sadly telling you that the color property is not going to work. So usually the American or the simplified spelling is going to work. Um, and I don't see that any other questions are there right now. Okay, so these are all the topics. And here is going to be the exercise list, but I'm going to go back to what you will receive. So you will receive this page. It is right now private, so you can't really access it, but tomorrow you will get it, and everyone will be able to access it. And basically here you will find the schedule, and you will be able to find the exercises on for Tuesday, that is tomorrow, on the week one. This is going to be the workshop, and this is where the exercise are going to be. So there are a couple of questions related to fonts. Yes, there is going to be a last break, and then I will try to answer these questions that arise in the meantime, and then we will try to finish up earlier, and everything is hopefully we will conclude everything. So let's have a last 10-minute break, and then we will continue. So I will 10-minute count down that. All right. See you in 10 minutes. So, hey, last part, almost over. Just a few things. I hope that we will get back. There were a couple of questions that I will try to answer. So I will try to answer the questions that were raised, which were, the first one is that yes, this is going to be recorded, that was mentioned many times, and you can rewatch this. And I also already told many times that this is something that I'm going to send. So that's perfectly fine. If you couldn't remember anything like this, this amount of information is a lot, so it's perfectly fine. If you want to have a copy of this, and you will have a copy of this, and you will get this page as well tomorrow to work with, and you will receive the Discord invitations tomorrow as well. And I saw a question about or two actually, about how to see this list, and this is control space on a Mac, on a Windows, I think on every machine, but I think this is already well, if it doesn't work, then I don't know why it doesn't work in a Opera browser or any specific browser, but you can look for it, or tomorrow you can ask the question in the questions answered platform, and we will try to answer it. But right now I don't want to get into a search for an answer that I don't know, because I don't use an Opera browser. But it works on Chrome, and actually it's a good thing to use the Chrome browser, because then you can be sure that everything you are trying to do is going to work as it is going to work on my computer, or how it is in the examples. We are always using Chrome. That is kind of the most stable and up-to-date browser to develop things, and actually, so it is going to be a good thing to try out Chrome for this kind of purpose. And why is it important to learn HTML and CSS when there are website editor softwares with what you can actually do this? Yes, there are, but it is the easiest part of the programming, or the most understandable part of the programming, because you can see the result, and already you can learn what to think of a little bit of how the computer is going to work, or how the computer is going to think, and how it will understand what you are typing in. So it is basically a very good way to structure your thinking into how the programming will work. It is going to be very, very different any other programming languages, but it is a very good place to start to learn the thinking of how a program or a computer is going to understand what you are trying to say. You have to think in structures, you have to think in boxes, and follow a couple of rules that every line, every attribute, or every rule has to end with a semicolon. Every opening tag needs a closing tag, and these are these are things that you have to get used to, and HTML is a very good place to start with, because it enables you to have a little error here and there and it will still work, but you also need to follow these rules very, very strictly sometimes in order to make it work. So this is kind of why it is a good thing to learn it on your own, and also it builds on a lot of things. So you can't really use an HTML or a website editor to build something and then modify that with code, because that is going to generate HTML and CSS that is not really readable for any human being. This kind of thing is going to be a little bit understandable after a couple of things that you have to, or a couple of exercises, or even after this video. You might be able to understand this HTML structure and this CSS, but what a software like that will create is not going to be understandable, so you won't be able to extend it or build up on it. And because of that, you will probably need to write this on your own, or at least some parts of it. All right, everybody is checking in with the age, as I can see, and yes, HTML is technically not a programming language. It's a structured language for documents. That's totally true, but still has a lot of rules and very similar rules than a programming language. So it is going to be a very good place to start, and you can build your own website with it. I wanted to show you the exercise, or an example of the exercise. What you can see here is that this is going to be the day of, or the workshop page. Basically at the top of the page there is a little hint of how you should be addressing the problems if any of them occur. But the point is that you can discuss any questions with your study group tomorrow on Discord. If you want to look at some of these helping materials, you can maybe find your solution with the help of the materials. Actually, in a written format, basically everything that I talked about is here on the Mozilla Developer Network. If you want to get through everything that we talked about, this is going to be available for you, or it is available actually now, so you can read everything. It has a little bit more than what we talked about, but it has all the basics with detailed information, and the same with CSS. So you will be able to read through any of these contents, and there are also a couple of collected videos if you want to have a specific want to check a specific topic, for example lists, and you can check out how lists work. And then the actual exercises is going to be on the top, and the exercise is going to look like we are going to provide you a little help section at the top. So if you have a question to this exercise, you can click on this link, and you will be directed to a Stack Overflow page. Stack Overflow is a question and answer platform. Now you can ask questions and others can answer them, and it is very useful, and programmers are using it, so we can use that too. And if you have any questions that you wouldn't be able to solve together with your study group, then you can ask us here or ask it here, and we will try to answer it as quickly as we can. And the rest of the exercise is going to be a little bit of text, what to do, and maybe a little bit of help of information of how to do things, but everything is going to be I think very followable and understandable. And then you will have little parts of the exercises that you will find and you will have to do. And all the exercises that you need to do will have the result. So this is going to be the result that you will have to produce. And basically, it is going to be starting from the very beginning. So this was something that where you will use the fork button of CodePen. This was also a question from before. So for forking, you will get this CodePen. Actually, I can show you, and you will see this beginning stage with a little HTML and CSS part. And basically, if you click this fork button, you can copy this onto your account, and you can work it as it would be your own. And then you will need to do little modifications, basically. So make the backgrounds green instead of yellow. Then change the background for one of them. Then change the border for one of them, and so on and so forth. Yeah, that's it. If I'm not answering some of the questions, then you probably already answered that, so you will be able to rewatch the video afterwards, and you will find the answer somewhere in the beginning of the video, probably. Yeah. So if I'm or I just missed it because there are a lot of comments, that's also a possibility. I can't answer every question that is in the comments. So this is how it will look like, and you will get a very detailed again description of how to do things. So you will get an exercise that is looking like this, and then you can either solve it on your own. So it is perfectly fine that, okay, I think I know how to do this, or at least you know how to start it, and you can start it without anything. But if you feel stuck, or if you feel uncomfortable with just starting out and you don't even know how to start, then there is a step-by-step guide at the bottom where you can follow, and there we actually talk about all the things in a written format that I was talking about. You can even see that the font insertion is here as well. So if you missed that or forgot that, then you will be able to add it as well. So this is how will the exercises look like tomorrow, and I hope that they are going to be understandable, and you will be rocking them to the end of the day. So yeah, I didn't show you the actual link here. So this is going to be a page like this, and there are going to be questions here that maybe will contain already your answer or not. But if you didn't find somewhere the answer to your question, then you can ask a new one, and then you can specify the title of the question. So I don't know, something is not working, or not working how it's supposed to, or you can even ask it in Hungarian or in Czech, but I don't know Czech, so I can't really pick an example. But here you can it's perfectly fine to ask in Hungarian and Czech. and you can put a description to your question if you want to add more details or anything, or you can even put a CodePen link to the question. So this is my work so far, and then whoever will be answering the question can actually look at your code and answer the question regarding that you are actually seeing this. And the only thing is that if we want to use this properly and find the questions to exercises easily, then you can add tags to the questions. So this was if this is a question to, for example, this exercise, to create a new pen and use the headers, then you can tag this question with the headers tag, for example. And then it is going to be probably answered, hopefully. So this is how it works. Then you can post this question, and we will check the questions during the workshop, and if there are any upcoming questions, we will try to provide an answer for that. But this is actually a tool where programmers answer questions to each other as well. So it is also a good place to look for, just not in our version, but actually the Stack Overflow without the theme is something where you will probably find a lot of questions and a lot of answers to any kind of problems that you might encounter in programming. Okay, so this is where you will be able to ask questions, and yes, and what else? Okay, so we talked about the exercise list and the example, and there is going to be the help on the exercises. So if you have any questions on the exercises, you can ask on this link at the top of the exercise that I showed you. And if you need help in any topic, then there is a collection of a lot of materials in the topic or in the day at the bottom of the page after the exercises. And you can always look on Google for any kind of things. And we will send you a Discord invitation, the Stack Overflow invitation, and the exercises for tomorrow. And I think that concludes it. I will look at the comment section. But I don't see any questions that are not answered previously. So I hope that you enjoyed this, and I wasn't too I don't know, sleepy voicey or something that made it hard to listen to for this long time. And I hope you learned a lot, and tomorrow you will be starting on your own with your study group, with actually typing, if you haven't already tried them out. And let's see you tomorrow then. And now I'm going to stop the streaming.